Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. The people of Scotland are in trouble because criminals are just not being locked up. They're being released. They're just walking the streets. They can commit sometimes quite serious crimes, and yet nobody in the Scottish justice system feels compelled to lock them up to keep society safe. And it's just not good enough. Now, Russell Findlay, the Tory justice spokesman, has come out and pointed out the fact that the new report released today shows that there is a 7-year low of sending prisoners to prison, or sending convicted criminals to prison. And it's got to change. Otherwise, it's just going to become a lawless hellhole, which is probably the direction of travel of the SNP. It's probably what they're actually aiming at. Anyway, we'll take a look at this, see what's going on, see what the report says, and see why Humza Yousaf and the others are all failing at keeping the people of Scotland safe. Their one and only job. Here goes. Right, SNP soft touch. Justice blamed as proportion of criminals sent to prison plunges to a 7-year low. They keep letting more and more people escape the clutches of prison and put them back on the street, where they represent a true and present danger to people. Why can society not be kept safe by putting these people away? What is wrong with them? Scottish Conservative Justice spokesman Russell Findlay said the Nationalist government was putting offenders ahead of victims, as new figures showed a huge rise in community-based sentencing. We don't want community-based sentencing. We want these people in prison where appropriate. And if it's anything to do with physical or threats or, anything like that, sexual, they've got to go to prison. And yet, strangely, they're not. But this is the same government that let a man who hard a child walk free from court, for heaven's sake. Anyway, the SNP's soft touch to justice has been blamed after it emerged the proportion of criminals being sent to prison had plummeted to a 7-year low. Just 14% of convictions in 21-22 led to a custodial sentence being handed down by the courts. In contrast, the number of offenders being handed community services has increased to 24%, a 10-year high, and an increase from 17% in 2012-2013, according to 1919 magazine. According to the new data, there were 14,160 community services handed down from 21-22, up from 9,783 the year before. That's a near 15%, near 50% increase, isn't it? It's just ridiculous. These include community payback orders, restriction of liberty orders, and drug treatment orders and testing orders. And in comparison, the proportion of physical offenders being sent to prison dropped from 27% to 23%. So fewer than a quarter of all offenders convicted of violent crimes are going to prison. How is that not dangerous to society? And of course, in many times, it will be the victims who've given evidence. And then these guys are back out on the streets looking for vengeance, looking for their victims and re-victimising them. It's not good, it's not right, and it's not safe. In total, there were 8,196 custodial sentences handed down, and it comes amid controversy surrounding new sentencing guidelines being implemented by the Scottish Sentencing Council, set up by the SNP government in 2015. Yeah, basically, let's not put anyone in prison because it may inconvenience them and it won't help us as we make Scotland a lawless hellhole. There's already a presumption of lesser sentences for offenders under the age of 25, with fears it could lead to dangerous criminals being allowed back on the streets. Scottish Conservative Justice spokesman Russell Findlay, him there, said these figures yet again confirm that victims of serious crimes are being failed by the SNP's weak justice agenda. It's not weak, it's deliberately having the balls ripped off it, effectively. They are deliberately making the actual, how can we put it, making the opportunity to commit crime is much easier because they're getting rid of police left, right and centre. Once you've committed the crime, if you are unfortunate enough to be caught, the courts are dealing with you in such a lenient way that it is neither a punishment nor is it sending out the signal to others to not do the same? It's not a deterrent. Oh, what did you get? Oh, well, I got community payback order. Oh, right, what does that mean? Oh, I got to work 12 hours unpaid. What did you get away with? Oh, £30,000. It's fine. And that's it. There's no deterrent. And of course, without a deterrent, crime increases. And without punishment, crime increases. Almost 9 out of 10 convicted criminals avoid a jail sentence whatsoever, and fewer than 1 in 4 violent criminals were sent to prison. Public faith in Scottish justice is already damaged, and with the lowest number of police officers in 15 years, the concern is it's only going to get worse. And of course, that is the plan, to make it worse, to get it as bad as it possibly can be. The figures also come against a backdrop of dangerous overcrowding in Scottish prisons. SNP ministers have repeatedly tried to distance themselves from sentencing guidelines set up under Humza Yousaf. They can't really walk away from it. It was his guidelines, his department. He was Justice Secretary. Anyway, this is despite the SSC being established by the government, as we said. Appointment to the council is also carried out in consultation with ministers. So they're trying to distance themselves, but it was set up by the government, the people appointed to it by the government, and it was Humza Yousaf himself who set it up and who said that the guidelines for under 25s need to be reduced, because if once you get them down that it's okay for people under 25 to do terrible things to children, then they'd say, well, it's a bit unfair for over 25s. We'll bring that down eventually. And of course, eventually what you're getting is that basically the sexualisation of children will not just be not illegal, it will become the norm. It'll indeed be promoted, just so people who are just like Humza Yousaf can do the things they need to do. That's why he pushed it, of course. The council has prioritised community services, claiming they're more effective at reducing reoffending. There's no citation given, so we don't know. Experts also say they allow those who've broken the law to be held accountable while supporting rehabilitation. I don't mind that, but they can be held off the streets, away from their victims. That's how you rehabilitate them. You stop them from committing these crimes. The figures were welcomed by Laura Hoskins, Head of Policy and Improvement at Community Justice Scotland. Well, isn't that a name of a department? Community Justice Scotland, doesn't that strike you as being a bit woke? I bet she's a vegan. Anyway, she said, where people are supported and helped to address their offending behaviour, stay connected to or build a connection with their communities, local support networks and personal relationships, then the evidence shows we create a more effective and fairer justice system, which leads to lower rates of reoffending and fewer victims of crime. If you truly want to do something for crime, you give them 3 strikes and they're out, and on the 3rd offence, it doesn't matter what it is. Irregardless, it could be stealing an apple from a greengrocer, it doesn't matter, it's your 3rd offence and you're into prison and you stay there for the remainder of your natural life. That's it. That way you can reduce crime. 3 strikes and you're out. And I shall stop there and I shall come up. It's no wonder crime in Scotland is going through the roof. You cut budgeting, you cut the budgets to police. They don't have the men, the resources, the stations, even the cars. They can't respond. Some crimes are just going unreportable. You just cannot report these crimes now. Scottish police have said, don't bother, they're just too small. We're not going to deal with them. At the same time, when you do manage to catch these criminals, the courts are letting them off with a slapped wrist. Sometimes even for quite, serious charges. They're walking free. The people don't feel safe. Some people, I think, are going to end up being losing their lives because they've gone to court and spoken out against someone who's then not been locked up. This is going to happen. And all because the ministers involved want to soften the justice system deliberately, because they lack the balls to actually just say, look, these people are bad, let's just lock them up and, have a judiciary prepared to put people in prison for a very long time. I'm not talking about some kids mucking around or stealing something like that. You obviously got to have some sense and some sort of scale of justice, if you will. And don't just mean the scale of justice as in like the scales. I mean, appropriate sentencing. But when it comes to physical harm of people, it's got to become incredibly serious, and it's got to be dealt with in a very grown-up, serious way. And if that does mean 20 years, 30 years, and life for murder, then so be it. And life must mean life. Never allow them back out on the streets, because they represent a threat. Reduce the threat. Also, It acts as a deterrent. If you know that what you do is going to give you a life sentence, may make some people think twice. Generally, it makes the place a much safer place to be. Anyway, enough of that. Here endeth the lesson. Thank you very much for watching. I hope it's given you food for thought. You must start thinking about why they want this weak justice system. Must be for a reason. I think we all know it is. Anyway, till next time, stay safe, stay well, and make sure you don't become the victim of crime. Bye.